Hi YouTube, this is the series that's about the US Constitution, rational Western traditions of rationalism, reason and ethics, and it's done as an open letter to Mr. Hughes's history, so I'm going to read from the letter now. Hi sir, this may sound like a lot of statements, even normative ones, of what should be. But I have to put forward an argument before I ask the question for clarity. I have a serious problem with judge-made laws and conventions treated as though they have the force of law. The origins of common law precedents are from the perspective, historically, within encapsulations, historical context of the English legal and constitutional resistance to Norman feudal rule after 1066 aside. At the origins of common law precedents are from the perspective of presenting decisions based on culture, a systematic way to solve problems, the general cultural norms of citizens within the national society, and the principle that the court is just a meeting of peers. So it is not what judges deem ethical via their bias for or against, but it is rational in terms of what is empirically proven or what the citizens, national society and culture consent to, abide by as laws. That is why we enforce our will through constitutional democratic elections in order to articulate what the cultural norms are of our present context, of our present generation. As I said before in the first video on precedents, that Jefferson said no generation may impose their will, or coerce this generation. Otherwise, that's the tyranny of generations, of forcing dead laws on the present context of the present living generation, the present living nation, and the dead generation have no more right to do that than a foreign power. Okay. That is why we enforce our will through constitutional democratic elections for government as state institutions to serve the citizens and the commonwealth of the nation. If we have statutes created by reasoned debate and process of checks and balances to prevent projections onto them or abuse, i.e. the dictatorship of minority or majority power groups, and this is all underpinned by the electors' votes, i.e. we are the electors in our nations as citizens, in a democratic election, then the two houses of Congress and Senate, or in England the Parliament, is both the courthouse of the citizens' nation and the regulator of the courts. Okay, so in England, and I should think in the United States, Parliament makes laws via democratic elections. They enact laws that the people are asking for via elections. In Switzerland or Sweden, people can take on what the Anglo-Saxons called the Witte and have public square votes, i.e. direct democracy, to force their government to do the will of the people, you know. Which I can't remember whether it was Montesquieu or Rousseau who was articulating that back in the day. So if we all this is underpinned by the electors' votes in democratic election, the two houses of Congress and Senate, or in England the Parliament, is both the courthouse of the citizens' nation and the regulator of the courts. Although the Westminster system is a fused power system, not separated powers as in the United States, its ability to abuse power is checked by the European Union, the EU, and it's who has the Supreme Court, you know, and there's a Lisbon Treaty with all the natural and economic rights that even beyond what the US Constitution has. And it's judicial functions under the Lisbon Treaty which prevent rights from not being asserted due to state or business power groups trying to suspend assertion. The fact is, the founding fathers in the United States, at least, built on the precedent, recognised that a natural right or economic right exists even if it has no power of assertion behind it. And also, there's a principle in English law that a right once given cannot be taken away. I.e., we don't let hospitals kill seriously injured people or those incapable of any outward response because it is more cost effective not to treat them, or that an illegal killing, i.e. a murder, is not punished. In my video on Western rationalist ethics versus infanticide, there's an infamous article by Francesco Minerva and Alberto Minirani, I think his name is. These were two ethicists apparently who stated in their article, they gave their article a rhetorical title of a rhetorical question, so it's a normative statement of what should be, i.e. Infanticide, why should the baby live, you know? No, not why shouldn't the child not be killed, you know? It's the reversal of meaning, you know? But you can check out that series where I argue against infanticide being brought into to policy, prevented from being put into policy. That is because the right to life existed before and even after a life has stopped. It is the fundamental principle of civilized rational law. That is why when murder occurs, the law and the state as agent of the physical victim asserts that person's right to life, because our natural right to vengeance, if we are the victim, cannot be asserted, or because our kin, by living in a national society based on citizenship, forgo the natural right of vengeance. This, especially in Roman and Anglo-Saxon society, prevented blood feuds incrementally to develop and so incrementally to develop civic culture and the concept of a citizen being part of a nation rather than different families fighting for power, which is feudalism. However, the concept of liberties, which is the idea that the state can award privileges on top of rights, is a good thing up to a point. The freedom of a city is certainly a liberty in that respect. Freedom of speech, though, I feel is more of a right, that it is seen as a liberty, because the state interferes with the pure meaning of words, to encapsulate it, by using the educational process to change the association of terms. This is both a hangover from the 19th century yoking business and state power to education, which reduced emphasis on reason and placed moral emphasis on immediate utility of workers to a certain trade. That's the idea of utilitarianism and parasitical capitalism and Marxism enslaving people's labour to capital, so that those groups who were totalitarian, even within the utilitarian or parasitical capitalist thing, which is broadly neoclassical economics, and Marxism, which is another capitalist ideology, wanting to control capital. Those are machines that make other machines.